The Locked On Podcast Network presents the NBA Big 3 in 30. The 3 biggest stories in the NBA from our local experts at the Locked On Podcast Network. We bring you the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 30 minutes. The NBA Big 3 in 30 starts now with the biggest stories in the NBA.
Yo, it took until September 28th for the Golden State Warriors to dip their toe into the free agent market. Al Horford has joined the ranks of Golden State. We've known this for a minute. We do know that it will be a multi-year deal. All the details have not been finalized, but you would have to imagine that with the Warriors making this signing public, dotting the I and crossing the T, that the Jonathan Kuminga holdup is sorted one way or the other behind the scenes, because they waited this long, and something tells you that there is news to be had very soon with Warriors Media Day on Monday the 29th. But as of the 28th, Al Horford joins the team. Now, this is a weird situation to where we've been talking about Al Horford as if he's going to be a part of this roster the entire summer. I've been looking for content, and Al Horford has been a piece of content. So we've had on guests, we've had really detailed breakdowns, but I think the best breakdown we got was from John Corrales of Locked On Celtics, considering he's watched all his games in previous seasons, including the last game that Al Horford had previously played for Boston. So I want to get a take on what he brings to the table. I'll start with just defensively, and also from the standpoint of his age and how much he's going to play, what we should expect, all those things. Here's John Corrales' take on that.
So I think that Al is, in the regular season, still he is a little bit of a pick his spots kind of guy. If he likes the matchup, if it's like a matchup he'll get up for, then you'll see him kind of dig. And like he's strong. And so if somebody wants to put like a Jokic, right? He'll go at Jokic, and he knows how to defend Jokic to a degree, as much as Jokic can be defended. But my point is, a marquee matchup like that, he will get up for that. In a lesser matchup, I think Al understands at his age, you're going to make some business decisions. So there will be some plays over the course of the regular season where you might say, oh, Al could have gotten that, or he needs to give more effort to get that. In a playoff series or in the big games, you will see him make the effort to go get that. It's just not going to be as consistent all the time. But he understands what the game needs. He'll give the game what it needs, and he might pace himself for 3 quarters. And if it's a close game in the fourth, he'll pick up the energy, and those business decisions are different in the fourth quarter. So he can still protect the rim. He's not jumping quite as high. He's not an elite shot blocker, but he can come over from the help side and do a good enough job. And like I said, if he's up for a matchup, you'll see him make a couple of plays where you're like, wow, that he's how old? So it's not exactly like LeBron.
About 40.
But yeah, it's he'll defy his age from time to time.
The nice thing about hearing that Horford isn't going to be up for every night is that the Warriors have players like Quentin Post and Trace Jackson-Davis. And TJD got relegated to the bench a little bit last year, especially late in the season. But once the playoffs came, specifically the series against the Minnesota Timberwolves, he added some size and looked like he could hold his own in that series. Look, you don't need a ton of productive minutes from Trace Jackson-Davis if Al Horford's your starting center and Quentin Post is your backup center. But on those load management nights, especially nights that Horford may not have it, injury nights to a Horford or a Post, it is nice having that backup to the backup option that is Trace Jackson-Davis, and has proven that he's at least a serviceable big in the association. There's a reason why he's still on Golden State. Kevon Looney, who had his moments last season and I thought played excellent in the moments he was given in the Houston Rockets series, is now a member of the New Orleans Pelicans. So that's a big body that the Warriors do not have. But from beginning of last season to end of last season, I would say there were each moments that Kevon Looney / Trace Jackson Davis provided some of the things that the Warriors were looking for. And you would hope that the addition of Al and the exodus of Kevon Looney is not a net neutral. You would hope it's a net positive, because if not, that hurts for Golden State. They need Al Horford to be better than Kevon Looney was, and he will be better if he's healthy. Now, how much will he play minutes-wise per game? What's he have left in the tank? Here's John Corrales' answer on that.
Where, I wouldn't go like 30 minutes or anything like that. I wouldn't play him on back-to-back. So you do have to, I think if you look at it like a glass of water, there's only so much water in the glass for a season, and you have to conserve that, right? But if you leave enough in there, you'll have enough to drink in the playoffs. It's just, you can't push it. You have to, I think the 20-25 minutes is the limit. But he will, look, again, he is a student of the game. He understands. He's been around for a long time. He is incredibly professional. He will come in and he'll be consistent about, he'll get to the facility at the same time. He will go through his treatment. He will go through everything that he needs to go through. It's very kind of standard. You can set your watch by Al Horford. And I think that's the type of guy that kind of, Steve Kerr is going to love this guy. The players are going to love this guy, because he's just about, what do you guys need? He's past the point where he needs anything. He's happy. 2 shots, I'll take 2 shots. 12 shots, no problem. All threes, no threes, whatever it is. He still can get down and bury his shoulder and make some moves. He can get into the post sometimes. That's fine. But I think he is more of a perimeter player, but short roll, rolling to the rim, popping out to the 3, all of those things are there. The passing is still very much on point. Offensive execution, he's a very smart guy. He'll get it. Defensively, he's a great anchor to the defense. He'll be there. He'll learn the terminology pretty quickly, and he'll be a great anchor to the defense, especially, when you're dealing with Draymond and what he does for the team. I think the key is Al, just the drop off from Draymond to Al is not as great as you might think a guy that age might be. And stylistically, it's not like you're bringing in, a big plotting guy that can't stay. You've got a guy that can do a lot of the same stylistic things.
Man, he hit all the buzzwords right there. It sounds like just what the doctor ordered. You get a little short roll action to where he's going to fit into the offense. We may have even heard some pick and pop in there. In terms of IQ, student of the game, knows what he needs to do, is going to accept his role. Steve Kerr is going to love him. The list goes on and on of things that you like about Al Horford. Really, the negative that we point to is just history says that a dude at 40 is not someone you give a multi-year deal to. And based on the way he's played in recent years and based on the number of games and the durability that he's had, number of games he's played, durability that he's had, that's just, you're pointing to statistics at that point, because the eye test still says that he could play an effective role, and especially for the contract that you would imagine he's going to get. Now, that's still being finalized, but the sources have told ESPN that Horford has agreed to a multi-year deal with Golden State.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I like to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, or even jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Scoot Henderson has a torn hamstring.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast.
Announced earlier today by the Portland Trailblazers, Scoot Henderson sustained a left hamstring tear at the practice facility last week. He's going to begin rehab and is, quote, expected to return to basketball activities in 4 to 8 weeks. His status will be updated as appropriate. This stinks. I mean, you don't need me to tell you that it stinks when someone gets hurt, but this is just such a deflating bit of news heading into the season, heading into media day. The last episode I recorded was, well, we're looking forward to media day, and I don't think it's going to be very newsworthy, but here's some things that I'll be curious about. Then we got real news. The Blazers announced it today in a press release. Most guys are back in the gym in this last couple weeks of September. They're holding like pretty much practices. They're not formal practices, but they're pretty much practices. And then guys are getting their workouts in. And Scoot Henderson sustains a left hamstring tear. So 4 weeks, he misses a little bit of the season. 8 weeks, the long end of the timeline. Comes back in the third week of November. We miss about a month of the season. But it doesn't say he will return. It says expected to return to basketball activities in 4 to 8 weeks, which makes me think that even at the end of that timeline, that's not return to court. That's return to working out, to running around a little bit, to trying to get back to getting in shape. So this just seems like it could be a long thing. Obviously, if it's at the low end of this timeline, he could be back in November. Long end of the timeline, we're talking into December. We don't know, right? We don't exactly know what it is. But it doesn't sound good. The way this is worded, it does not sound good. Obviously, it's a hamstring tear. That doesn't sound good. My go-to person for this is always Jeff Stotts, who's been monitoring sports injuries for over a decade, is the owner and operator of InStreetClothes.com. And Jeff Stott says that hearing the injury described as a tear, quote, and accompanied by a lengthy recovery window, 4 to 8 weeks, suggests a grade 2 plus or higher strain. Location of the reported tear, muscle belly versus the tendon, will influence the recovery time. Stotts had previously reported back in the playoffs that the average time lost in his database for NBA players for a grade 2 hamstring is approximately 31 days. So that's in the right in there, the lower end of that 4 to 8 weeks timeline. But if it's worse than a grade 2 tear or potentially, we don't know all the details of it, obviously, as Stotts points out, the location of the tear would influence the recovery, and obviously the average folks fall on either side of that type of thing. So this just stinks. It stinks for Scoot because this was going to be a huge year for him. This was the year to prove to the Blazers that their sort of maybe hinted lack of confidence in him was unfounded. They signed Drew Holiday, they signed Damian Lillard. There isn't a clear path for the number 3 pick in the draft to have all this opportunity to play, right? And Scoot hasn't probably been good enough consistently on the court to deserve that blind confidence, right? But the team probably sent some pretty obvious signals that they don't have a great deal of confidence in him, right? And this was his opportunity to show them that they were wrong. And obviously, let me be 100% clear. This isn't Scoot versus the Trailblazers. The best case scenario for Portland, as a basketball franchise, for the Blazers as a franchise, is that Scoot is indeed good, right? And they do get proven wrong. Their sort of lack of confidence in his path does get shattered a little bit, does get cracked a little bit. Because if Scoot's good, that solves a lot of the problems. Because having good players is the path. And part of Scoot just proving it was he was going to get a lot of opportunity, even if he didn't start. I was assuming he would start the season, but even if he didn't start, he was in line for 28, 32 minutes, a big minute every night role. Maybe there'd be some complications of who plays at the end of games, but Scoot was going to have an opportunity to play himself into a bunch of minutes and, show that he deserves a bunch more franchise investment than they have showed him thus far, right? They've given him some opportunities, but they haven't really rolled out the red carpet for him like some franchises do for the similar level of draft picks. And Scoot was going to get a chance because the Blazers had at least had a roster such that he was going to have a big minute role and a chance this year to prove that he deserved more. And now he doesn't, and he's going to be just starting from behind because his year begins with rehab, and then you got to get right, and then I don't know, I don't have any data about recurrence of injuries, but I just as a sort of a general rule, soft tissue injuries linger. They're a bummer because they stick around. They're hard to get past. So much of Scoot's game is dependent on like everyone in the NBA runs and jumps, right? You're going to need your hamstrings. But so much of Scoot's, like the best version of Scoot's game is an explosive athlete who uses those quick burst and quick twitch muscles, quick twitch activity, just like to be a blur, right? To get into the paint and live in the paint and be that type of guy. And this changes that for him. At least it changes the timeline of when we will get to see that from him. It could be, deep into November or December before he gets back, depending. I guess it could be longer than that, right? But at the very least, we're talking a couple weeks, if not a full month into the season, and likely longer based on the way this press release is worded. Although, like, parsing a couple sentence press release is maybe not the most fruitful way to do it. So the overall, like, this bummer for Scoot. I'm legitimately bummed for him. It's awful. What does it mean? It means that I think the Drew Holiday is going to start at one of the guard spots, and then we're talking for the final starting spot. My assumption is that it's Drew Holiday, Toumani Camara, Deni Avdija, and Donovan Clingan are your 4 starters, and now the 5th starter is a choice between Shaedon Sharpe and Jeremy Grant. It was going to be Scoot competing for that spot, if not outright just getting that spot, and now it's going to be between Sharpe and Jeremy Grant. Also, the Blazers are a little light on dudes like point guardy type dudes, so this might mean, I don't think it will. Like, if I had to guess, this is not what this means, but there is a world in which Blake Wesley plays a little bit. I'll be curious to see his role in preseason, but my assumption is that they'll play every single minute with either Drew or Deni Avdija on the court, because those will be your sort of primaries, and then a lot of the ball handling duties will fall to Shaedon Sharpe. But on the Blazers, a team just like sort of light on playmaking, light on passing, and guys who can create off the dribble. They got even lighter with this injury, and it robs us, the fans, of a chance to see Scoot in a potential breakout season in year 3, or at least pushing towards being the best version of himself in year 3. And like, yeah, it puts a real damper on the beginning of the season. It stinks. I hate it. Injuries suck. They're part of the game, but they stink. They're always a bummer, and this one is no different. A couple other things to talk about. The timeline of the lawsuit that the Bethal family has made, and sort of the timeline of how this legal struggle happened between the Churn family, which is part of the pending ownership group for the Trailblazers.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
The season is officially here. It's media day. Camille and I have some thoughts.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast.
It is like the first day of school. Camille, certainly that'll have the feel for me as you go back to the arena surrounded by some people like, oh yeah, I haven't seen that guy in 3 or 4 months. And of course the players, a lot of them new this time. So it's going to have a much different feel for media day. I mean, I guess let's start there. I mean, you look at last year was year number 2 of the Giannis Dame experiment. And it was another year where the pieces were largely the same. You just did some tinkering on the edges. The year prior was the big, highly anticipated one with the Damian Lillard debut in Milwaukee. But prior to that, every year after 2018, same feel of like this team is largely the same. They just made some minor tweaks. We did not have an in-person media day when Drew Holiday became a Buck. So that's the caveat there. But this one's going to take on a bit of a different feel, as it's basically All right, Giannis, Bobby's still here. Oh, hey, Thanasis is back, and now a bunch of new guys.
Yeah, like those are your long-standing Bucks there. And Thanasis wasn't even on the roster technically last year. I mean, he saw him around, but not a member of the Milwaukee Bucks. So like those are your three OGs on the team for the most part. But then you do have some guys who are returning for like their second year with the Bucks, or some of the younger guys there. So like a Gary Trent Jr., Kevin Porter Jr., really interested in hearing from both of them about their summer, how they approached it, things of that sort. But there's like continuity, but also not continuity. Like it's the first edition of the Milwaukee Bucks post, 2018 here, where there's no Brook Lopez. Like now you're welcoming in Miles Turner. There's no Chris Middleton for this media day. Like we know he was traded mid-season, but he was still part of the media day, experience last year. So the first media day without a Chris Middleton, there's no Dame here now. So it's a big turnover from what we thought the core of the team was going to be last year to what it is now, which is Giannis, and hoping like a lot of guys can perform their roles really well around him. But you lack that other superstar. You lack that other guy that you can point to and be like, hey, this is who we're expecting to be like the number two or to show up in these big moments. Like there's guys who we think can do it, but there's no hierarchy that's been settled yet. So it's like different, but like same, but different at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, well, Miles Turner's number one. When
Yeah.
we say, who are we most looking forward to hear from? And I believe you can stream this as well. That the Bucks have traditionally done that, but I would imagine we're going to get Miles Turner right out of the gates, and he's going to be the guy that everybody's got questions for. We mentioned before when he had his press conference in Vegas during Summer League, Eric Name was the only local reporter that was out there for Summer League. So didn't really get his taste of the Milwaukee media. And he's going to be the guy that a lot of this is pinned on with the offseason, obviously waving and stretching Damian Lillard, his pairing with Giannis. So there's going to be a lot of intrigue and questions for Miles, many of which I would assume he can't get into and answer. But when did the recruiting start? How did this come to play? What have you been told about your role? When did you start to seriously consider this? Like, these are all things I'm very curious of it. And to be clear, I don't think we would get a transparent response to this one. But my number one question for Miles Turner, if I could inject him with some truth serum, is, so just give me the timeline, dude. Like, when did this start to fall into place? And, we talked about it with Tony. I think it's kind of out there to read between the lines. But when Tyrese Halliburton went down with that injury, like, did you at the time think, how is this going to impact my free agency? Did you think like, oh, that's a bummer, but we still got the group coming back together? Like, how did this start to layer in place here, where all of a sudden the reports of that $30 million a year offer the Pacers were willing to do just kind of vanished, and you were left looking around to say, okay, I guess I'll go to this team that I was supposed to
go to this team I was supposed to have a blood feud with for the rest of my time in the Pacers jersey. But no, I think I would love to know that too. I saw that the Bucks had like a fan version kind of like of media day yesterday where Miles Turner spoke. Doc Rivers was there. John Horst was there. They announced this really last minute too. Like it came to the forefront of everyone's knowledge.
I don't want to speak out of school here, but I mean, you've done it long enough. You know when media day is. Yeah. They didn't make the formal announcement and invitation until extremely last minute. I even had a few people reach out like, hey, have you got anything for media day? Like, I want to say it was like Thursday that you got the email. Like, by the way, media day is Monday. RSVP now.
Well, then it's on brand. It's on brand for media and for fans alike with the event that they had this Sunday. But yeah, I want to know a lot. If I could ask Miles the one question, I really want to know, like, everybody's talking about the Miles Turner, Giannis front court. And even he mentioned it yesterday of like, it's going to be scary. Like Giannis is we're on the same team. Yeah. It's going to be scary. But I'd be curious to know from Miles, like, what style of play is he looking to play? Like, what do you want to do here? Like, we've talked about the defensive schemes here for the Bucks, how it was drop heavy. We talked about last year, some of the changes that they were attempting to make here along the way. But I would just want to hear from Miles of like, when you envision yourself on the court with Giannis, like, what does the style of play look like for you? Especially coming from a Pacers team that we know can get up and down. Like, is that your preferred style of play? Like, I would just have some style of play questions for Miles off top. And like, how do you envision this? How have you been training this off season to get ready to play next to Giannis rather than playing with the Pacers, which is a different experience here with such a heliocentric star in a certain degree with Giannis. So just the differences there and how he wants to adjust his game to that and how he plans to bring the best out of Giannis too, because I agree that front court can be and should be scary, but we also thought that the Dame Giannis partnership would be even more scary than what they put on tape here, even though, highest scoring duo in the league last year. Still felt like there was some meat on those bones. So really curious to know from Miles just how he sees things.
Yeah. And, I think it's natural to bring up too, that the other guy that's kind of tied in here that I'm very curious to hear from is Bobby Portis, because, we outright speculated if he was even going to be back in Milwaukee and what the market was for Bobby. You started to hear other teams too, like, the Golden State Warriors, who just now, yesterday, signed Al Horford to a quote unquote multi-year deal. Okay. Like, let's bring the same energy of this team's too old to Golden State that we brought to Milwaukee then. But we heard that team kicked around and a few others that kept popping up, and you wondered, like, well, it's a pretty good value deal for Bobby. Is there more money out there? He came back for the same money, and now you come back where I think we were all kind of thinking Brook Lopez is probably gone. So one of the sells on Bobby Portis is, hey, your role is going to expand, and it may still expand, but when you add Miles Turner and you retain Jericho Sims, I'm very curious to hear from Bobby Portis similar things, his timeline. And so what's been communicated to you about the role you're going to take on? Because you would think backup center, and save for those minutes that you're playing next to Giannis, it's just not going to happen this year with Miles Turner and Jericho Sims on the roster.
Yeah, it's not. And Jericho Sims is another name I'm interested too. Like, there are quite a few questions that I have. And I also really want to hear from Doc Rivers about some of the things that he might be envisioning for the team this upcoming season. Of course, there are things that have to be settled and determined in training camp, which is going to get underway this week as well here in Milwaukee before they head to Miami for the last 3 days to kind of finish up camp before that preseason game against the Heat. But I have a lot of lineup questions, rotation questions for Doc Rivers, and how he might approach things differently this upcoming season than what he has in the last year and a half here as the head coach of the Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the lineups. I got some questions on that. I also have some questions on the formatics and the coaching. We also got the training camp roster that included the coaches.